some expected cognitive performance. So initially, you fix the cognitive performance from the student. Fix means you fix your expectations. This is the cognitive performance I'm looking forward from my students as far as this topic is concerned. And once you fix those cognitive levels, performance, and then you backtrack and then design a question. That is a strategy that we are adopting. So when we say cognitive level, these are the levels. And I think almost all of the teachers are now familiar about these levels. This is one type of classification or taxonomy of learning or thinking. There is, remember, processes happening in the brain, conceptual clarity, that is understand level, using the concept in a very familiar situation, that is apply level, using the concept in an unfamiliar situation. Then you need analytical thinking. So there's a level called analyze. There are places where you may demand the student to develop hypothesis. That is called, they have to make a judgment or a decision making. So that's called evaluate level. And oftentimes you may demand some creative thinking. That means come up with a new idea, a new thought. So that's a level called create. So as far as the human brain research is concerned, all the possible brain activities are classified here. Irrespective of the subject that you are teaching, teachers are not able to come up with any other brain activity that they can think of possibly. So that is one of the wonderful features of Bloom's taxonomy. They have really thought about what are the possible ways one can use the brain. And they come up with the 6 levels. These levels are qualitative divisions based on the effort that an average learner needs to put to perform in those levels. So the hierarchy that you are seeing as we go from bottom to top is a scale of effort that a person needs to put in to perform in these levels of thinking. Are there any clarification needed for these levels of thinking? Anyone would like to make a comment or a question? Because the entire question setting is based on these levels. So if you need clarification, you can please unmute your mic. I'll just wait a few seconds, see if anyone would like to ask any question. Okay. That case, let us begin with this exercise. I want you to come up with one expected learning in your course in any of this cognitive level. Okay. Just take the course that you want to teach and then tell me one learning outcome for this course, because question setting depends upon learning outcome. So take a minute, come up with the learning outcome, then we can think of how to set a question for that. Okay, so we will just take some feedback. Sangeeta, MR. Abhijit TS. Abhijit TS. Deepak Joseph.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, the learning outcome is my course is social work research. I hope that I am audible.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, my course is social work research, and the learning outcome is after the course, the students will be able to develop research proposals for conducting various types of social work research.
Okay, develop a research proposal, right? That's
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, all right. Let us hear a couple of more examples. Annie.
Sir,
Yeah.
I am from MBA department. My subject I am planning to do my CO is for entrepreneurship, and one of the CO I have developed is develop skills for business plan and project preparation
Develop skills for business plan
and project preparation.
right. So it's a set of skills, right? Develop skills or develop skill.
Actually, the thing is, for every functional department, they need to have plans. It's a set of all these things. That's why skills. I said skills.
Only thing is, is there any possible way to list out those skills? Because what are the skills the learner will be happy, or the learner will be in a better way to prepare themselves if they are aware that I need skill this, second skill, third skill, fourth. I mean, if we can have clarity on these are the skills, so then it will be a bit more easy for them to organize their own learning process.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that's only suggestion. Okay, all right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Joshua. Raju Sebastian. Sojan. Ashwati. Tibi. Drishya. Rekha. Nibi.
Excuse me, sir. Is
Yeah.
CB over here? CB.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you see the slide?
One second. Slide.
Hello. We'll come back to you. Shinu.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Actually, sir, the course for which I am developing that I have developed a course outcome is microeconomics. The course outcome is demonstrate how a market that is not in equilibrium responds to restore an equilibrium.
Okay. This demonstration is
it's at the application level.
Right.
At the application level.
Right. So this demonstration, you want them to write down, or what is that activity involved? How do you
theoretically demonstrate?
What are they actually doing?
With the help of diagrams.
So they're writing, right? Basically.
Yes. It's basically right.
Explaining or writing. Yeah. So
Yes,
what I'm
yes.
saying is those terminologies will be more useful. Demonstratives are also good, but if you can communicate better to the student that what exactly they are supposed to do.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so that will make a learner focus. What is that action that teacher is expecting me to do?
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
that is fine. Let us hear a couple of more examples. Anthony. Okay. Pavanam.
Hello, sir. Can you
yeah.
hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Anthony here.
Yeah.
The course for which I'm teaching is management accounting.
Okay.
The outcome will be the student should be able to apply the theoretical concepts of cash flow analysis for identifying the weaknesses of cash management of business organizations.
Right. So the only thing suggestion is, can we put that identify first?
Okay.
Because that is the action.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Applies
Okay.
the level of thinking.
Okay.
So student always probably it will be more helpful for them if we say that, okay, the task is this.
Okay. Can I reframe it as identify the weaknesses of cash flow, cash management by applying the theoretical concepts of cash flow analysis?
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So let us see. Binu Anthony. Okay. Johnson.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, the course that I have designed is mathematical economics, and the course outcome is apply the concepts in differential calculus in the field of economics and make rigorous analysis of further studies in the all branches of economics.
Okay. So are we focusing on a particular task here? So first part is applying some concepts. Okay.
Okay.
That is a level of cognition that is we are trying to communicate. It's an apply level job.
Yeah.
But what is that exact job? Because in the previous case, there is a job like identify the cash flow. So like that, what is that a particular job that you are looking for? In your case, you say make rigorous analysis, something, right?
Yeah, in different branches of economics, we can use the concepts of differential economics that we have studied.
Right. So differential economics analysis. So is there any specific problem that you are focusing here, or it's like a bunch of things?
Yeah, it can be either from the microeconomics point of view. See, we are actually applying the differential calculus in solving problems in microeconomics. For example, microeconomics and macroeconomics.
Okay. Now it's a bit more clear because there can be a bunch of problems, and basically their job is to solve the problem by applying this concept.
Yes.
Okay, great. So essentially this idea, as we already told, this is an expectation about their performance, and there should be a task. That is the most important thing. This task is describing an observable action from the student side. And also there should be a level of thinking, apply level or analyze level. So level as well as the job, both should be there in your outcome statements, whether it is a learning outcome, course outcome, program outcome. That's all different context you put it. But if you are trying to communicate to the learner, ensure that these two things are there in the outcome statement. Otherwise, it doesn't serve the purpose. So now I just want to show some example. This example is from science. So, but still, I just want to tell you that for a whole course, suppose a teacher wants to write, 3 or 4 outcomes, then you call it course outcomes, or you can call it course learning outcomes. So the level should be mentioned. One of the ways through which you can mention the level is separately. Here I separate the levels from each of the action, and I have written separately. Action is told in the statement. They have to explain, they have to calculate, they have to derive. So these are their jobs. But these jobs are done in different levels. So both should be communicated to the students in your outcomes. And if you can separate it out, it's easy because they look for the job. And we are training in each of these levels. Training part is with us, we are the trainers. So depends upon the cognitive load, we will ask them to experience that cognitive load in the classroom. That way we give a training to them. So even if in the beginning they don't understand what is this level, slowly when they sit in our classes, the problems that we throw to them will enable them to reach these levels. BA Economics. Students will be able to differentiate between positive and normative statements, understand level. Correlate data to solve complex economic problems, analyze level. Students will be able to identify key economic problems, analyze level. So this also, job is given, level is given. MA History. They'll be able to explain and critique the historical schools of thoughts, analyze level job. They'll be able to formulate arguments, evaluate evidence, interpret variety of sources, analyze level job. They'll be able to conduct research that makes an original contribution to knowledge, evaluate or design level job. So here also job and the levels are given. Now, I want you to design a question for the LO that you have chosen. So take one LO and then design a question to assess that LO. So think about what are the aspects that you need to take care when you design a question to assess whether that learning outcome is achieved or not. So keep your learning outcome with you, then design the question. Go ahead. Okay. Joel, Teresa. You're not audible. You're now muted.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Jewel Teresa from MBA department. My subject is Managerial Communication and Technology.
Okay.
The learning outcome is that students will be able to understand the importance of verbal as well as non-verbal communication. This is what I wanted to teach the students.
So, Joel, there is a small issue. There is when we use the expected learning in terms of only the level, the action is missing.
Yeah. Right? Understanding so, level. Yeah. I meant
level is clear.
Yeah.
But what is the action? So all these examples, there are two things. One is level, one is action. Right?
Yes.
So in your case, you have told only the level.
Yeah, in order to capacitate students to communicate effectively. That is the task that
that is our intention. What student is doing is the action. Suppose they understand the importance of verbal and non-verbal communication. What task they will be able to do?
Okay.
Or maybe we can phrase it like this. By looking at, they do some action, by looking at that action, we can judge. They
By doing
understand.
some business presentations.
Fine. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
task is up to you. You can choose it because
Okay.
you are the subject expert. But this task should be communicated to them in the learning outcome statement, saying that this is what I want actually you to do. And in order to do that, you should be in the understand level.
Fine, sir. Yeah.
So can you just reformat the outcome now? They'll be able to present what you said. Give a
Business or project presentations in front of the class, and so that they can be. So we can make them understand the importance of verbal as well as non-verbal communication.
Or we can, yeah, you can even say that they'll be able to explain, right? I mean, the difference between verbal and non-verbal, whether it's a presentation or a written or that mode of thing, we can always decide. But basically, they are explaining to others, right? These are the features of verbal and non-verbal. Okay, good. So now, what is the question? How do we know that they are able to develop these skills?
So should I frame a question now?
Yeah. So the slide, as if you can see, design a question to assess the intended learning. Your learning outcome, now we have come to an agreement. They should be able to explain the difference between verbal and non-verbal communication by understanding the concepts. So now, what kind of question we can shoot to them so that we are checking whether this skill is developed or not. You want more time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. We'll come back to you. Let me request Jolie K. James. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm teaching in social work.
Okay.
And my subject is understanding and addressing social problems in India. And,
again, the same problem, no? So only level is mentioned.
No, sir. This is the title of my subject.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. And the learning objective is develop the ability to understand the multidimensional factors contributing to the social problems prevailing in our society.
There also, I mean, the issue here is when we communicate the expected learning from them, they are actually looking for a job, a task. Developing skill is still not clear what the student is supposed to do.
Sir, it's, can I read it once again? Develop the ability to understand the multidimensional factors.
What is that ability? What is that ability? Still not clear, no? It is something like a masked thing. That means we are not telling them exactly what you are supposed to do. There is still
analytical ability skill.
So think about like this. You are observing in the class, your students are doing something. By that, whatever something, you are in a position to say that now they understand it. What is that they are doing? If you can tell me or describe, suppose they do this, then I will verify or I will certify that they understand it. What could be that? You think about it, because learning outcome is not easy to come up with. We need to really think what is that we really want them to do intellectually, right? It's not to be a performance in the kind of stage performance or physical performance. It is intellectual performance only. But what is that we want them to do? That is the question. Okay, let us, because then only the question, the design of the question will be easy, because now we have a very specific expectation. Then we can easily verify it.
Okay.
But if our expectation is not clear, then still verifying is possible, but we'll be verifying something else, because to begin with, we ourselves are not clear, no, what we are expecting. So let us hear another example. Is Abhijit TS there, or Jeffin Joseph?
Hello, sir. Abhijit is here, sir.
Yeah, Abhijit. Yeah.
Sir, actually, I haven't developed any. I'm working in the self-financing department. I haven't designed any course.
Okay.
Okay.
You're a newly joined faculty or?
Yes, sir. I was here, but I am not in charge of any particular paper.
Okay. But are you teaching or?
Yes, I'm teaching. Yes, I'm teaching.
Okay. So as long as the teaching, whatever we discussed makes sense because we teach with a particular expected learning. That's called learning
Yes,
outcome or learning objective, or you can call different names. But a teacher should have clarity on what is to be learned.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Otherwise also we can teach, but we may not be very effective.
Okay.
So what we are trying to do is we are trying to encourage teachers to have clarity on what is the intended learning in a topic.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can share your thoughts on that, suppose you take a topic, what is that you want them to learn in that topic?
So, you mean the learning outcome?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
What is the expected outcome?
Okay. The student have to analyze what is being taught in the class. He has to understand the things. And
let us take one only. So when we say analyze, right? So there can be, as you can see in the slide, there can be multiple levels of thought process one can expect.
Yes.
So you said analyze, but analyze is a level of thinking in which there are multiple cognitive activities are possible.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
That means the student can do something he or she may need to analyze. They can do something else that also he or she may need to analyze.
Okay. For example, sir, if I'm teaching English, for example, if I'm teaching a particular poem, the student and if I'm referring to the poetic devices, he or she has to identify the poetic devices in the poem.
Very good. So now that is a task.
Yeah.
Identify the poetic device, right? That's what you said.
Yes. Yes.
That is a task. And for that, they may need to think analytically.
Yes. Yes.
So learning outcome has these two elements. One is the task. Another one is the level of thinking expected to perform. Okay. So this, we try to communicate them even before we start teaching.
Okay.
So there are some research say that there is an added advantage if you are communicating this. Now our job is, once we come up with a set of such expectations, each of these expectations, now you can design a question.
Okay.
The take home message is, don't make questions before you clarify your expected learning outcome or learning objective. The first step is design this, then create a question.
Okay, sir.
Okay, good. All right. So let us move one more question for yeah.
So I am Raju Sebastian.
Okay.
I have a doubt here.
Yeah.
I am teaching linguistics at the undergraduate level. And one of the outcomes that I have framed is outline the field of linguistics with its branches, interdisciplinary fields, and its basic ideas. That is the outcomes that I have framed.
Okay.
Suppose I make a question like this, will it be okay? That's my doubt. Explain 3 important branches of linguistics.
Okay.
Based on the outcome, is this a proper question? Or what is diachronic linguistics? The basic ideas. So these are fundamental ideas in linguistics without which they cannot move forward.
Right. So when we say outline these basic ideas, so you are targeting a level of thinking in the understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So then explain something is actually matching with the expected level of thinking.
Okay.
Because the whole idea of understand level, according to Bloom's, is they should have conceptual clarity.
Okay.
And if one has a conceptual clarity, the skill that the person develops is he or she can explain to another person.
Okay.
Because they have the conceptual clarity.
Okay.
So now the expected level of thinking or the action and the question is at par.
Okay.
This is what.
What is diachronic linguistics?
What is
diachronic linguistics? But again, that's a question based on this outcome.
Exactly. That is also there, but instead of asking what is, we can again say explain or describe, or I think put that kind of communication is better. Okay. What, where, how, when is a normal way of asking question, but if you properly want to design, put a cognitive action in the beginning of the question is better.
Okay.
Like describe or explain, so that they also get clarity. Okay, this is what the teacher wants me to do. So the same thing we do for learning outcome also. So now we see that at some point teachers will realize that learning outcome and question are really connected. Both are describing an expected cognitive action from the student.
Okay.
So they are actually not different. They are more or less same.
I have in fact seen some question papers based on OBE. Just copying the outcome as such.
So now we are coming to that point. That's a very important aspect. We have to copy if your learning outcomes are in remember level, understand level, or to a certain extent apply level.
Yeah.
Because there is no difference between your learning outcome and your question. You are actually revealing your question when you write the outcomes.
Yeah.
In lower levels.
Yeah.
Moment you go to higher levels, there is a difference.
Yeah.
Even if you tell them the learning outcome, question will have same cognitive load. Because the moment from analyze onwards, the context that you are going to ask in a question and the context that you discuss in the class will be entirely different.
Yeah.
So you may tell that you need to identify these things, but discussion context and the question paper context will be entirely different. Then only it becomes analyze.
Yeah.
So higher order thinking, analyze, evaluate, create questions and learning outcomes, you can safely go. But below there is a problem, as you said, there will be very good similarities between the learning outcome and the question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So one of the goals of OBE is that slowly we'll push the quality of education to higher order thinking.
Yeah.
That is a long-term goal. Okay, good.
Okay,
so let us see one more example. Who will be there? Priyanka. Is Priyanka there?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Any input from your side?
Sir, should I read out the question?
First learning outcome, then question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, first learning outcome, then question.
Sir, I teach a problem paper called cost accounting. So I want to analyze the sales potential of a particular product.
Okay.
Based upon the given figures.
Okay.
So I framed a question like the analyze the sales potential of the company or the product based on the given data. I mean, I want to give a certain number of years.
Okay. So and when you say analyze the sales potential, right? That's what you said.
Yeah.
What exactly they are doing?
They need to compare the data of the previous years.
So why don't we say compare that? Is there any problem in saying?
Compare and analyze.
Yeah. So yeah, compare these things by analyzing. So what I want to tell is these two things. One is the actual job that you are expecting them to do, and the level of thinking required to do the job.
Okay, sir.
So if both we can tell, then it will be really good for them to prepare themselves. Okay, teacher wants me to actually compare this data from previous years or from other source. And analytically. So the advantage of having an analytical LO is that you may help them to compare in a classroom exercise with some kind of a context, but in an exam paper, you change the context to something else.
Okay, sir.
And there should not be any familiarity between what you discussed in the class and what you are asking in the question paper.
So could you please explain once more?
So if you really want to develop analytical skills in somebody, what we should do is, we should give some problems in the class. Each problem will be of different context.
Okay, sir.
And in the exam, it will be another context.
Okay, sir. So students need to think and they need to apply the concepts, right?
Yeah. So they should not get any familiarity feeling.
Okay, sir. Okay, I understand.
If they are getting familiarity feeling, they are simply applying things.
Okay.
The moment you create a context in such a way that the context is something that they never thought of, then they have to analyze.
Okay, sir.
All right. Good. Any other questions at this point? Anybody would like to? When we set questions also can have taxonomy. Broadly, they can be classified into two different types. One is called non-hierarchical, another one is called hierarchical. In OBE, we follow hierarchical type. According to the taxonomy, based on the cognitive level, we set the question. But there is another way where we can think of non-hierarchical, where you can have closed question and open question. Open question is called divergent, closed question is convergent. Both closed and open can be asked in any level. So we are not worried about the level in this case. Whereas in Bloom's taxonomy based question setting, we focus on the level. Both are accepted practice, but if you are following OBE, hierarchical is more preferred. We will just see the non-hierarchical first, and then we will go. It's called disjoint question. Closed question is possible, open question. The difference is closed question means there is a predefined answer, a single answer, which is correct. Open means there can have more than one correct response. So example of a closed question is, you can identify an author of a particular book. There is no confusion. There is a fixed answer. That is a lower level. Even memory can be used. Higher level also you can have closed question. Compare the features of writing styles of two authors in a certain period. So there are definite answers for this kind of questions. Whereas open question, lower level is give specific examples. So then they can, come up with the different examples. There is no one specific answer, but still the cognitive load is lower. They can use memory or they can use understand level. Higher level, open question is possible. Write an essay criticizing the views of a particular author. So there, multiple answer comes, but that is higher order thinking. Either the student is evaluating or the student is creating. So there can be, the load is different, but it's an open question. So this is one way of approaching question setting. Forget about the levels. You classify whether your question is closed question or open question. So I want you to just take a 1 minute to say that, what is the advantage and disadvantage of open and closed questions? You can just make a column kind of thing. This is plus, these are the advantages and these are the disadvantages. Then I will request one of you to comment. So if you consider open question, what could be one plus point of open question? Anila?
Sir,
Yeah.
I think in the case of open question, students can be more imaginative and they can write from their own perspective.
Yeah.
Rather than a confined answer.
Yeah, they can actually open up and then can be imaginative because there is no restriction. There is no one specific answer we are looking. So that is one advantage. Can you also tell what could be one problem with open question?
From the evaluator's point of view, it will be difficult for them to score if it is with some scoring cards or like
It is difficult for teachers actually, right?
Yes.
More than students, it is more difficult from our point. We cannot just give mark based on what we will give mark. Uniformity in assessment is going to be a problem.
Okay.
Yes,
There is a way to still come up with a way of we can have a rubric saying that.
Yes, sir. We can come up with rubrics, but the problem is that even making a rubric is little difficult from the part of a teacher.
Exactly. That is a difficulty part. All right. Very good. So you can see this is closed question, not open question. But once we classify to open or closed, the similarities and the disadvantages will be the same. The advantage of a closed question is comparison and checking of answers are easy. A lot of objectivity will be there for closed question. But the minus point is limited scope for respondents to express their views, limited scope for teacher to measure writing skill or attitude of the student. Whereas in the case of open question, as you rightly said, somebody's mic is on. Yeah. So the advantage is that you can measure the attitude, writing skills, and allow students to express their ideas. And negative part is objectivity will be very low and no direct evidence of goal achievement. You can make indirect rubric and then say that, okay, they can be classified as very excellent student or good student, but quantitatively assessment is slightly difficult for open-ended questions. Okay. So before we go to the hierarchical model, according to the taxonomy, a few tips. Suppose you want to ask this kind of a question. Who is Shakespeare? We can ask, but probably a better way is name the writer who wrote as you like it. So what we are trying to do is how much clarity you can bring in your question. That's a very important aspect in question setting. Suppose some teachers ask this kind of question, especially in science, what is coal? A better way is write the chemical composition, because actually teacher wants that. When we ask what is coal, teacher actually wants the student to write the chemical composition. So instead of that keeping in mind, if you say what is coal, there can be different ways of thought process you are inspiring in students. And your answer may be different. Or there is a possibility that you may get an answer that you are not looking for. So in question setting, clarity is very important. One suggestion is think the intended answer first and then frame the question. That will increase the objectiveness. So we can sit down and then try to this is the answer that I am looking for. So what kind of question I can ask so that I will get this answer? A kind of a reverse engineering is better for clarity. Another question example, I'll just quickly read it. Suppose you are a mathematics professor who wants to determine whether or not your teaching of the unity and probability has had a significant effect on your students. You decide to analyze their scores from a test they took before the instruction and their scores from another exam taken after the instruction. Which one is appropriate test to use in this situation? The same question can be asked like this. Suggest appropriate statistical tool for analyzing students' pre-test and post-test scores to determine the effectiveness of teaching. So here what we are addressing is how much verbosity we need to put in the question. If the information is irrelevant, no need to put in the question. Some case informations are important. You need to describe a context. In such cases, please go ahead. No restriction. But if it is not necessary, if it is not relevant, avoid all those things. Verbosity. Okay. You just trim down, make direct questions so that it helps the learners to see what is that question is. What is that is asked. So don't bring the complexity. Complexity is okay, but don't make it complicated. Unnecessarily making complication is Another something that we normally observe in some question paper, which doesn't help the learner to perform the way that you want them to do. So ask direct questions if possible, eliminate excessive information. Whatever information needed, we should provide also. What is the normal human body temperature? But probably a better way is write the normal temperature of human body in degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. An animal that eats the flesh of other animal is dash. An animal that eats the flesh of other animal is classified as. So even though it's a very minor change, it brings a lot of clarity into the or precision into the question. So it's always important to specify the degree of precision and the units desired. Maybe more important to science subjects, but even for economics where some calculations are involved, it is important that to what degree you are looking for the precision. Okay. So some hierarchical questions. Now we are coming to the hierarchical part. We are using the taxonomy. For example, there is a level called memory, where you say recalling the data is the load that you are asking. So you can ask, define, list the names of characters, name the author of a book. All those things involves memory level. So now we fix the level of thinking first and tell them that these are the expected learning outcomes. Okay. So as one teacher rightly pointed out, in these questions, the learning outcome will be the same thing. Define a metaphor can be your learning outcome. So when you ask the question, you need to ask the same question because that's what you want them to learn. List the name of the characters in a novel. You can simply rearrange a few things, work on your English and say that, what is the name of the hero of the novel, heroine of the novel. But essentially, you are checking whether they are able to list the names of the characters. So there will be a very one-to-one correlation between the learning outcome and the question if you are putting questions in the lower level. Next level is understanding. Conceptual clarity is what you are looking for. So the question will be like explain or summarize. You are essentially checking whether the student is having conceptual clarity on the theme that you are teaching. Apply level question is they are applying a concept in a very familiar scenario. So explain the salient features of literary works in a particular period, Renaissance period or medieval period or whatever choice of the teacher. But there are certain things which is already classified. So they can go and say that this is a feature 1, this is a feature 2, this is a feature 3. So there is nothing to analyze here. They are simply applying the concepts or the information in a familiar context. Now onwards, analyze onwards, the game change. Because they have to actually compare this data set that you are giving in a very new context. Okay. So compare the writing styles of 2 authors. These 2 authors will keep changing. So in the class, you may take 2 authors, but in the exam, you can take entirely different 2 authors because they have to analyze. If something is already discussed, then what are they going to analyze? Nothing. So the moment you say analyze level, the kind of training that you should give to them will be different context. In exam, yet another context. So how many different contexts you train them in the class will determine the success of their exam performance. Evaluation level is yet another task where they have to develop a hypothesis. So criticize the work of an author and assess the quality of the work based on your hypothesis. So that means the student is developing a hypothesis. You get multiple answers because they can come up with the multiple hypotheses. So this is an evaluation job. They are not just deciding something based on the textbook information. They are deciding something based on their hypothesis. Okay. And create is obviously write a creative essay or write a poetry or write a short story. They have to come up with their own ideas. So this kind of question setting is called hierarchical question setting, where we take any taxonomy and then according to the cognitive load, you set the question. So are there any clarification?
Sir, I am Raju Sebastian again.
Huh?
Sir, could you go back to the evaluate? Okay. So I am from the English department, and in fact, most of our questions are of this nature, that in the example, you know. But the problem is, all these, when we teach a poem or a short story or a play, we actually give them the critical the critical analysis of these poems or these stories or novels, etc. in the class.
Okay.
So when we ask a question like that, will it not be a question based on memory again?
Exactly. That's why I said. So if you are targeting a level evaluate, so then whatever taught in the class, that should not be coming as a justification. They should not use that. In an evaluate level performance means they have to define their decisions based on their hypothesis. So we need to ask them to write a critique and then argue that or put forward some points based on a hypothesis that they developed, not based on what teacher told or what based on their textbook told. Then only it is because our idea is that they have to evaluate.
Sir, then in that sense, you know, that's a very tall order for the students, because the kind of text that we study are of tall order. And then in order to understand the text itself needs a lot of learning on their part. So it is to help them understand the depth of these stories or novels that we give them different interpretations on the part of different critics and so on.
Right.
Then if only they are trained in such a way, will they be able to come to the level that you have just suggested?
Yes, it's not easy.
But then maybe at the undergraduate level or even at the first year postgraduate level, I don't think that they will be able to come up with their own original evaluation.
They may be able to, provided, as you said, we have to train them.
Okay.
If you are not getting time for that, don't put question on the evaluate level.
Okay, fine. So all those questions, I mean, all those content that we taught in the class will fall either at the apply level or at the understand level.
Yes. Most of the time, they may be able to do that kind of exercise if you are doing the normal teaching. But if you are using some methodical teaching where you target a particular skill and then devote more time for that and develop tools for that, like suppose you want them to develop this hypothesis skill, then every class I need to devote a particular amount of time for them to develop hypothesis in different contexts.
Okay.
I can train them, but then I need to see that will take a lot of time from my class.
Yeah.
So only if I can do that, then only I can ask questions in that level. Otherwise, I am not justified to ask that question.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Same thing with the creative also. It's not easy. Simply putting yellow in the create level is not ethical. We need to train them. In fact, any level, if you want to ask the question, we need to train them. That's our job. So the moment you go to higher level thinking, how much class time we are using to train them in that level is a question that comes back to us. So how to, so one of the things is set the question based on the level. Now the next question is, how do we come up with a rubric analysis so that, you know, I'm sure as a teacher that they have achieved the outcome. So a rubric is a tabular arrangement. That's called rubric. You put columns and rows. So I want you to now think, how can I develop a rubric to assess whether the learner performance indicate that they achieved the learning outcome. So it's an assessment tool that clearly indicates achievement criteria across all the components of any kind of student work, from written to oral to visual. So we have a learning outcome which indicated that they have to perform something. And then we design a question and we ask them the question. Now, when they answer the question, what are the achievement criteria that we are looking for? It's like a checklist. In the answer, I'm looking for this. Okay, it is there. I'm looking for another one. It is there. I'm looking for another one. It is missing. So I need to have a checklist. That's called achievement criteria. That can be put in a table and column format. Then it is called rubric. So every question ideally should have a rubric with the teacher. And when the answers have come, we keep the rubric handy and then we check whether this checklist is reflected in the answer. So what I want you to do is, I want you to come up with a particular question and then develop an achievement criteria for the question. So tell me, what is your question and what are the achievement criteria that you are planning to look in the question? Go ahead. It is better if we take the question in the up to apply level or analyze level. Leave the top two levels for the exercise now. I'm going to ask that in the next step. But up to analyze level, take any expected learning and then write down what are the achievement criteria that you expect in the answers for that question. Okay. Binu Matthew.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Sir, my course is Principles of Business Decision.
Okay.
Where one of the outcomes is to enable the students to apply the apt method to create the linkage or ascertain the linkage between demand and demand determinants.
Okay.
For this purpose, I would like to construct a question like this. I would like to give certain figures, past demand figures and past income figures of a particular customer. And I would like to ask the students to apply the best method, the apt method, to find out the nature of elasticity.
Right. So now in the answer, what are the points that you are looking? Some features.
Okay. In the answer, the students should write the nature of elasticity because there are different forms of elasticity. Around 5 types are there.
Okay.
Student will definitely write the exact type of elasticity.
Okay.
The nature, then the elasticity in figures, the quantitative form of elasticity.
Okay.
Yes, that's all.
These two aspects. Okay.
Yes,
so like
yes.
that, yeah. So in each question, this achievement criteria putting in a descriptive fashion or in a very subtle fashion, but in a table format, say that point number 1, point number 2, these are the things that I'm looking for this particular, and every student achieve these two aspects, actually achieve the criteria, I mean the outcome.
Yes, sir.
Right? That is what we are believing or we are telling to the world.
Yes.
So this information or this practice of developing a rubric or an achievement criteria before evaluating is also suggested by OBE. So this can be like very simple, as you said, 2 things, but it can be very elaborate also, depends upon the question and the context. So it depends upon the subject and the kind of cognitive. You may need to have a elaborate achievement criteria also. That depends upon the question. So before evaluation, before the assessment, we need to have this particular in our hand so that there can be a very accurate or more scientific way of evaluating the answers. Good. Let us hear from another example. Priya.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, my course would be research methodology. So my learning outcome will be to familiarize with the research methodology softwares. And
Priya,
the question would be if
Priya,
can.
Priya, one second. The learning outcome, probably we need to work on that, because we said when we say that they should be able to familiarize with the concept of research methodology. Overall, I mean, teachers get an idea what we actually meant by that. But in learning outcome, that kind of clarity or the kind of black and white thing that we want to communicate is missing, because familiarize doesn't indicate any specific action. So we need to think and come up with a terminology which indicate that when they do this, it means they are familiar or they are familiarized. So we need to work on the language, what action that we can think of, which indicates that this particular intended learning happened. Okay, so yeah, familiarize the research methodology. Suppose they explain the features of research methodology, does it mean that they are familiar? Or what context we certify that now they are familiar about research methodology? What action? So that is what we need to think. And only when we come up with a particular cognitive action, then only we can even think of setting a question. Because that is what OBE is suggesting. You design a question based on your expected action. You are expecting something, the students should be doing this. Then you check that whether they are able to do it. Okay, that is the argument.
Okay.
If the expectation is not clearly spelled out, then what are we assessing? Right? So now, for example, in this case, you said familiarize the research methodology. What is the kind of question that you plan to ask?
If they are able to use softwares of research methodology like SPSS.
So it is like choosing a particular software, right?
Yes.
Or a particular research activity, choose a particular. So now in the question, actually there is a task. Choose a particular software. So what OBE is saying that learning outcome also we should tell a specific task. So we can say that they should be able to identify a particular software for a particular research. That should be the learning outcome. Then this question is matching with that learning outcome. Now, depends upon the level of thinking. You just want them to memorize the softwares and the research. That is one way of going with that. Or if you want them to analyze and identify the software, that is another way of going with it. These are all teachers' choice. Which level you want them to do this identification or choosing of a software. Any cognitive action can be done in any cognitive level. Choosing a software, I can choose it by remembering. That is possible in some cases. I can choose a software in an apply level thinking also. You change the context, then the cognitive demand will change. So what OB is thinking that teachers, you decide this a priori. Before you go to the class, you decide what is the action that you are expecting, what is the level of thinking that you are expecting, you put it down. Then you design the question.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm trying to tell is there is a connection between outcome and assessment. Okay, so let us let us think about it. So you can work on the learning outcome and probably change into an action, observable action that they are doing, and a level of thinking, and appropriately design a question. Let us hear another example. Chris, hello.
Can I speak?
Yeah, Raju, yeah.
Sir, regarding the rubrics, something like this. I'm teaching writing skills to the students at the undergraduate level. And then one of the outcomes is write a paragraph observing the structural format of a paragraph. That is the outcome.
Okay.
So we have, there is a specific area where we teach all these. And then we want them to write a paragraph observing all these. So it would be like write a paragraph on the outcome, on outcome-based learning. Suppose I ask such a question. So the rubric would be grammar and spelling, 30%, structural and structure of the paragraph, 30%, ideas, 40%.
Very good. Exactly. So you can see in this slide, for example, a student will be able to write grammatically correct sentence, apply level. This is an outcome.
Yeah.
So achievement criteria is given below. The student may be using a wide range of grammatical structures and tenses, manage punctuation, avoid errors in sentences, use right punctuation. These are the things teachers are looking in the answer. So only when we say that all these tick mark are achieved, then only the outcome is achieved. So otherwise, as Raju was saying, percentage, this much percentage of the outcome is attained. So we are bringing a lot of quantification into the assessment or evaluation in OBE. But this is only to tell you that when we have a something in mind that this is the achievement, this is the goal, this is the target, then we can always quantify whether the target is achieved to what fraction. That is possible. So that is the style of OBE. Now, the same thing, this achievement criteria. Suppose you have a learning outcome in the top 2 levels. Okay. Evaluate level or design level. So I want you to come up with a learning outcome in those levels. And then try to make this achievement criteria. Take a couple of minutes. Think about how we can write this kind of an achievement criteria for outcomes or the questions in the top 2 levels. Go ahead. I will request some of you to share your thoughts. Okay, so let us see the feedback. Anugraha. Oops. Okay. about Sunny Sebastian. George Kuti. Sangeeta.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have written a question in the creative level.
Okay.
My question is, write a conversation between a tourist and a traveler on the new developments of tourism in your country.
Okay.
And the assessment tools would be the wide range of sentence structures used, simple, compound, and complex, then the right use of the right punctuation and the right kind of ideas.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, suppose they use this right kind of punctuations, or when we say right kind of ideas. So how do we say that this is the right idea, the other one is not the right idea? Because in the creative level question, they have to come up with their own
yes,
right?
Now
you are evaluating, teacher is evaluating, but that is what the problem is. Whereas all the other cases up to analyze level, the answer is specific. There is a right answer, there is a wrong answer.
Okay, sir.
But creative level, we cannot say this is the right idea, that is a wrong. We can say, but what way we should segregate them.
Okay,
so,
sir.
There is no point in saying that it's a wrong idea. We can say that this is a better idea than the other one, or how it is a better idea. So when we make the assessment criteria for create level question, we come up with, we basically stumbled upon this problem, because there is no one specific answer which we can categorize as right answer. So that is what we are discussing. Let us see, anybody else have any
other sir. Thank you, sir.
suggestion? Yeah. Sigimon, Sherin, Neetu Jos, Binse Sebastian, Anila,
yes, sir.
Are you able to see the slide?
So my question is, pardon, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is in analysis level question.
No. Anila, we suggest, Anila,
it's
can you hear
in
me?
a quote like an expansionary fiscal policy.
Anila, can you hear me? Can you hear
so
me?
My question is like this, that an expansionary fiscal policy involves
So Anila, we specifically request.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We request questions from the top 2 levels. Evaluate and create.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Up to analyze, we discussed that we can have an achievement criteria easily. Are you able to hear us? Okay, I think there may be. Hello?
Hello, sir.
Can I?
Yeah. So Anila, then I think probably there is a connection problem.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You can mute.
Hello, sir. Can I come up?
Yeah.
I have actually coming up with a create level question.
Okay.
From management accounting again.
Okay.
My question is to make a budget of using the data and circumstances provided.
Okay.
Okay. So the thing is that while a budget is expected to be prepared by the student, normally there is a structure for making budget. How to so we can look at whether the fundamental principles for the making up of a budget and the structure are being followed. That can be an assessment criteria.
Okay, but the question is in the create level, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And what I would like to look at it, the incorporation of the circumstances given. Different circumstances may be given for the purpose of making the budget.
Right.
The business situations may be given. That is, the business is expected to follow these problems and go through some circumstances that may be given. How far they are taking up or incorporating these can be or should be a criteria. But the thing is that different people will link it in a different way.
Yes.
Depending on their imagination.
Exactly.
Okay, so we can't say exactly this should be.
That is a problem, right? That is the exact issue that we are facing for this developing achievement criteria. Yeah. So, but we need to, suppose we have asked questions in the higher level, we need to evaluate, we have to give some grade, some mark.
Okay.
So how do we do this is the question. So as you exactly said, it is their choice. They may come up with some imaginative way of putting things together and come up with a new picture. But then we say this is a good one or a bad one or a better one or a worse one. So how do we come up with that suggestion based on a criteria?
That too, actually, when suppose if 100 students are actually attempting this question,
right.
And if the answer scripts are evaluated by 2 different teachers,
even more
then the thing will be very difficult.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons now we will look at the university question paper.
Yeah.
We will see that questions are up to analyze level only most of the time. That is precisely because of this reason. When you deal with a large number of students, you cannot give a evaluation key like other questions for top 2 levels. That is the problem. But for autonomous institute or internal questions, we can train them and we can ask questions also. So anybody would have any other suggestions for these 2 levels, top 2 levels? Okay, one of the ways that literature says is the following. So what we can say is that we can have identify the features of whatever idea they have come with. So some of the features we classify as poor suggestions. These are the nature or these are the feature of a poor suggestion or a poor idea. That means suppose you want them to devise a budget, for example. If the budget is looking exactly similar to the existing budget, there is no creativity there. So that kind of a feature is a poor suggestion. So how many such features you can identify for poor suggestion? How many features you can identify for a good suggestion? And how many features you can identify for an excellent suggestion? You can put those features in a rubric format. So this is how you develop achievement criteria for top 2 level questions. You can have it qualitatively. We can say that I'm looking for these features. And if these features are there, I will say it's an excellent creative suggestion. So then I will give a grade. But if these features are there, I can say only it's a good suggestion. So I can give a B grade. So we can convert into a grade or a mark based on a rubric, and this rubric should be given to all teachers who are evaluating. So there will be uniformity. So this is one way of assessing create level question or even evaluate level question. Both evaluate and create level questions can come up with multiple answers. So, but it is always difficult because it becomes qualitative. So that challenge will be there. Okay. So we are coming to the end of today's session. I would like you to come up with some points that we discussed today. So please note down a few points that we discussed today, and then I request some of you to share for the benefit of the entire teachers. So take a minute, just revise quickly what are the things that we discussed, and then I will just request some of you. I'll randomly call. CB Joseph.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
So, to summing up, I could say that we could get a clear understanding of what is OBE and how to write a learning objective,
okay,
and how to generate questions based on the learning objective.
Yeah. So the idea, yeah, this today's session was basically this question setting at par with the learning objective or learning outcome. So because you talk about learning objective, so what is the current understanding when we say learning objective and when we say learning outcome?
Can we use it interchangeably?
That's what I am. Yeah. So I'm just curious because when people come for accreditation, I think they demand you to write it separately, learning objective and learning outcome, and teachers struggle. What should we write in objective? What should we write in outcome? So if you look at the way that we discussed about outcomes are expectations only.
Okay.
Right? Teacher is telling the outcome in the beginning, not at the end.
Yes.
So there is no difference between objective and outcome in the context that we discussed.
Okay.
Learning outcomes are teachers' expectations on students' performance.
The exact word could be learning outcomes. Huh?
So learning outcome is the terminology OBE suggested.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And learning objective was the earlier terminology that people used to use. But the